All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Liberalish podcast. This is episode 20. I'm joined today by my lovely co-hosts Carly, Marcus, and Ryan. Shout out to you guys. And then shout out to our first time and last time and returning listeners. Thank you for supporting us. So basically, if you're new to the podcast, what we are the political wing of the What You Expect podcast network. We talk about kitchen table politics. We're not experts. We're not DC insiders. We just sit around in the podcast, kick it, talk about politics.
I just want to say that's cap. I'm in grad school for that, so that's what I am.
Okay. Any future employers, doesn't matter what party, doesn't matter what lobbyist group, we are available.
We are more than available. My schedule is free right now.
Period.
All right, if you need a black guy to stand behind you or you see some crazy stuff.
Hey man, sometimes I'm kind of down for the diversity hire sometimes. If the pay good enough.
Shout out to the Republican Party. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about some karma. We're going to talk about Ryan has a good take on Biden's promises. And then if we have time, we're going to knock out a couple of headline items. And then I have some crazy takes on our VP Kamala Harris. All right, so let's kick things off. Guys, before we start the podcast, I think we should book a trip to Cancun, Mexico. What do you guys think?
My gosh. I would love that. I would love that.
It just snowed again today up here. I'm ready to go.
I don't want to go anywhere Ted Cruz has been.
well, Teddy's back in Texas. So
he came back. You guys bullied him.
Yeah, bullying works.
I just want to say that I played my part as a citizen of the United States in bullying a senator to come back home and do his job. I deserve a round of applause for that. I violated him. I violated him on Twitter.
Guys, we are being way too harsh on him now. He's a dad. Yes, he's married. Yes, his wife is fully capable of raising the kids.
His ugly wife.
But his daughters wanted to go to Cancun.
I mean, you can say that,
right? So he had to do what he had to do.
No, because
not according to them texts from. Not according to them texts.
He had a whole suitcase.
The text leaked, man. Somebody from the group chat leaked the text.
Ooh.
Somebody ain't loyal to the cause.
Who has it out for the Cruz family? That's what I want to know.
I could wonder. I could only.
That's
imagine.
what I was wondering too.
Like, do y'all think Ted Cruz got friends, bro? Like, on some serious, like
probably Lindsay, like the other, like maybe like
Josh Hawley.
I think no,
yeah.
Josh Hawley does not. Josh Hawley's not a friend.
No. Lindsey Graham said that Ted Cruz could get shot on the Senate floor and the Senate could be the judge and jury and will find no one guilty for killing him. And every day I think about that.
No, his wife is his friend. Maybe his wife is probably his best friend.
He throws his
wife. Sometimes you marry up. Sometimes you marry up. Like I hope to marry rich. So sometimes you gotta that's probably what his wife did.
There were some things about that whole Ted Cruz thing. One, I didn't know how out of shit Ted Cruz was. That
you
guy,
didn't?
I did not. Pablo Escobar. He had the Pablo Escobar fit down.
Oh, seriously?
Pictures, he looked just like him.
Seriously.
Why is Ted Cruz in a public airport?
That gut is.
That was my second take, Ryan. That was my second take. Like, you take a private jet anywhere. Like, you're not
wealthy. He's not wealthy.
He doesn't have one.
Isn't his wife? Doesn't her wife work for Goldman Sachs?
But they might not have a PJ. They might not have a PJ. Or
you can rent one.
It's that's only like 5 racks. It's only 5 racks. 5 racks for a private jet flight. Ted Cruz can do 5 racks.
Well, maybe he would. Maybe
he wanted to set himself up.
See, some people
have any benefactors or somebody who's giving him his campaign money can't give him the PJ.
You know what they always say? All press is good press. Ted Cruz probably planned this shit, knowing it's crazy.
Nah, man, this might be a case study to end that.
The way I see it is like some people, like when they go on a PJ, like to make the number make sense, like the people going like usually chip in. And it's like, oh, we're all rich. We can just all chip in for this PJ. I mean, if he was only traveling with his kids, it really makes no sense for him to pay $5,000 for him to go on on what he claims to just be a drop-off situation.
I didn't know drop off. My son had a big suitcase.
It wasn't a drop off.
No, I'm saying he's saying it was a drop-off situation. I know it wasn't a drop-off situation.
You saw the suitcase,
but I guess to fully feed the story that it was like, oh, I'm just going, like, oh, I just got on a regular. His first mistake was traveling commercially. Like, you know, somebody was gonna take a picture of you. You're Ted Cruz.
Yes.
Like, whether people don't like you, and that's fine, but you're still Ted Cruz. So you knew, and you're a senator from Texas. So they're probably all thinking what we're thinking. Like, we're in Texas in the middle of a weather crisis, and you're on a plane going to Cancun. Let me take my phone out. Oh my God, bitch! Guess who's on my plane? Ted Cruz. I can't believe him. So that was his first mistake. Maybe if he flew private, we would have never found out.
You know, this guy was so hated that he got a police escort to the airport, and the cops leaked it that he got a police escort. Like that, like when the cops hate you and you're Republican, that's bad.
He wasn't the only guy to flee, though. I think the Attorney General from Texas also fled to Utah during the storm as well. So I think he took a PJ as well. So even if, to Carly's point, I think if you took a PJ, if they don't like you, they're gonna find out about it. Like, somebody's gonna leak that shit. And
wonder how much taxpayers' money it costs to give Ted Cruz a police escort.
He got a police escort to the airport, and then customs police officers at the airport escorted him off the plane. Why does he need an escort off the plane? I don't know, but he needed
because somebody might run up on him. If I lived in Texas,
he wouldn't, and it's not like he doesn't deserve it.
Especially after Rand Paul got knocked out a couple years ago.
No, Rand Paul instigated that fight with his neighbor.
He got knocked out.
He got knocked out.
Did he have like a broken arm or something?
He showed up to the Capitol in a sling, I remember.
Yeah. He got his ass beat.
Yep.
all of these pro-gun libertarians be getting their ass beat. It's hilarious.
And then running to that government healthcare insurance, huh?
Love to see it.
That nobody else should have but them.
But Larry, let's change gears. Let's talk about Texas a little bit, right? And what happened in Texas. So if you've been living underneath a rock, capitalism failed in Texas, surprisingly. Their system of like electricity and stuff like that completely failed. It was not winterized. So basically their natural gas pipes burst. Their wind turbines, which caused 10% of their energy, didn't operate efficiently, which is why the Green New Deal is a dead deal for us. We shouldn't do it. People were left in their homes. They didn't have any heat, no electricity. They're freezing. Pretty scary conditions in Texas there.
I think my biggest problem with Texas, just like Republican controlled states, if you look at Republican controlled states like Wisconsin, like on a serious level, like Scott Walker, what's that dude name? What's the Indian guy name? The Indian governor that from Louisiana.
You're Jimmy Kimmel or something like that? Yeah,
he ran for president. If you look at all of those states that ran, they ran those states into the ground, those Republican governors. Republican policies don't work. Like, you can't say, yo, I'm not charging no taxes. Because you want to live in a state like Texas that charge no taxes. There's no money to build a proper infrastructure. You're going to get the worst of everything, which led to the wind turbines not having the proper materials for the wind turbines to spin, like having a private utility company having so much control and stuff. That shows that only boasts of the argument to have like publicized utilities, because obviously when you have a public utility firm, like there's a more accountability. There's no way like somebody is paying for 1 week of electricity, they're paying $16,000 electricity bill. Like, come on, that makes no sense.
I mean, even just to piggyback off of that, like, this is an issue where I think Texas had the ability. Texas is kind of off like this because they went out of their way to separate their grid from the rest of the country. There's an eastern grid, a western grid, and Texas was like, nah, we're just going to do our own grid. And then there was no real incentive for anybody who's under the, I guess, jurisdiction of the regulatory agency. They were just like, yeah, there's no incentive to invest or prepare our infrastructure for something like this. And then what happens is, if it's a situation like this where they're just going to go ahead and make a ton of money because they're able to just charge because there's no energy there. So it's basically like there's a ton of they basically did no work, and now they're able to just take all of this money from people. And you're seeing it now with people saying they're charging thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars for energy that they're not getting because the supply just isn't there. You have all this pent up demand because they didn't do anything. They basically left these people out to suffer. And it's something, it's funny. I was researching this, and this stems back to like the early 2000s with what happened with Enron and George W. Bush and Rick Perry. They kind of just left them out to dry for this situation. It just sucks that these Republican policies, even from years ago, what feels like years ago, are coming back to like bite the state like this.
Yeah, the thing I kind of love the most is like I'm not from California. I lived there for a little bit, but I'm not really from there. If you talk to like most Republicans, the first thing that come out of their mouth is they're going to completely shut on California. Like that's the reason why we can't have Democrats run the United States, right? Look at how bad California is. Like, what are you talking about? It's like the richest state in the U.S. pretty much.
if California cede from the union, it'd be the 20th richest country in the world.
Something like that. I think even higher, right?
Yeah. Last time I checked, it was like 20 or like 10 or something like that. It's supposed to be like like.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, there's so much criticism that California received. And like some of it is pretty fair. It is kind of refreshing to see that karma kind of bit Texas, the Republican state.
Right Elon Musk trying to leave to go to Texas.
Right.
I hope Tesla electricity bill was high.
Elon could afford it.
Yeah. We got the Tesla solar panels, so they're probably good.
Yeah,
right.
Just from the Green New Deal, though, that's apparently ruining everything, according to Governor Abbott and some other Texas Republicans.
Dude, that was a nuts Fox interview. Like, I don't know if you guys saw it, but
I don't watch Rick Perry and I don't watch Fox.
The wild thing was he actually like gave the real reason like before the interview, and then I guess something changed between like his initial answer to to what went wrong to going on Fox. He was like, no, I'm gonna flip it and blame it on the Green New Deal and green energy. It was like, what are you doing?
Right, and like I forgot who was like interviewing him. I don't know if it was Tucker Carlson or who, but it was just like he set himself up for like an easy counter question. Like he was like 10% of the state's energy is produced by wind, and this is why like our system failed. Well, what happened to the other 80-90%?
Right,
like they're supposed to control the state system.
It's I feel like for Texas, it's a wake-up call about Republican policy, but it's a wake-up call.
I was just about to say that.
It's a wake-up call that they're not gonna get.
Yeah, I was like, my biggest takeaway from this whole situation is like, even though this is going on, and then it's like, even looking at the situation with Ted Cruz, for example, it's like, it's really not gonna change. Like they're gonna continue to vote Republican, despite the fact that it's like the people who are supposed to be in charge during situations like this, or who are supposed to like do something about like these type of situations, always are going to invoke their privilege. Like you're freezing, you have no electricity, you're having to go to like extreme lengths. I've seen people having to heat food with candles, and like about the mother and her, I think a mother and her child who died because they were like trying to heat themselves in the car. They ended up dying from carbon monoxide. When you think of situations like that, and you realize like a lot of these people weren't expecting this type of weather because it's Texas, but at this end of the day, you have people who are just trying to survive in extremist weathers. But then on the other side of that, you have these wealthy senators and representatives who are like, I'm gonna just pack my bags and leave because I can do that. Like I have somewhere I could go. Whether it's a foreign country or another home in another state or a vacation house, or whatever the case may be, I have an option to leave. And it's a very unfortunate, because you would think that in situations like this, extreme situations like this, people would kind of look at the situation and be like, you know what, they don't care about me. Like they don't care because it doesn't affect them. But that's not how, like logically speaking, you would think that that's how the thought process would go. But we've seen this time and time again where the higher ups and the people who are supposed to take action during situations like this fail, and people continue to still vote the same way. So I feel like at this point it's kind of like, I don't even know like when a person or people in general would get tired, because you would think that this type of situation would be like, you know what, something has to change because they don't take us seriously or they don't care about us. But I mean, we've seen it time and time again that that's not how that goes.
I feel like it's the pull yourself up by the bootstrap mentality that Americans have, like, no government. Look, we can go back to the governor, the mayor of Colorado City in Texas.
Yeah.
When he posted that flagrant message on Facebook talking about, everybody waiting for government and out the strong survive and the weak will die. Some message like that. Just imagine you're freezing to death,
and I feel like
and you're looking to your government official for like some reinforcement, and this thing is telling you, the strong survive and the weak die.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not even. That's more than America though. That's a Texas thing. That's a very much because Texans much more so than just pulling it up yourself by the bootstraps. They're very much I got to get mine. Right. I don't care what you're doing. I got to get mine. That's why libertarianism, we talked about Rand Paul before, but that's a very libertarian thing to do. It's like, I'm going to get mine. I don't care what you're going to do. Just don't get in my way. That's kind of the mentality that he has when, especially when you're the mayor of like a town of 4,000 and it's like, nobody cares about what you're doing over there. But yeah, that's very much a very Texas attitude.
But that goes to what I'm saying about how capitalism has kind of crippled people in the sense that you really believe that the government officials that you elect for this very reason or for these very scenarios don't have to show up and do what they're supposed to do, because you've been led to believe that if you find yourself in a sticky situation, it's your responsibility to get out of it. And in some situations that might be the case, but in this type of situation, that's not the case. Like if your senators and your governors and your mayors and whatever, your elected officials, fail you every single time, what are you voting for? Like, I feel like the logic behind that makes no sense to me, because it's like, if that was the case, then what are they campaigning for? Like, what are you voting for them for if they're not going to do what what they're supposed to do? Like, everyone is like, oh, if I was Ted Cruz, I would have done the same thing. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's
a lot of that.
That's in itself is a problem, because for you to imaginary or put yourself in an imaginary situation where you're responsible for the lives of people, your constituents, and you're like, I'm gonna just pack my bags and leave and let them deal with it. That's not okay.
It's not.
I feel like one thing that I learned like in my classes that I've been taking is that government officials are elected. Nobody asks you to run.
Right.
You decide that in a democracy, you decide that you want to run. People elect you to put you in the places to make these decisions. You're supposed to be representing what these people want, what these people need to be done. We hired you. I'm public to be a public servant. A servant is in your name.
In the most simplest terms, that's literally how you should look at it. You chose to run, like you chose to apply, you chose to run, and we the people are the ones who elected you because we believed in the things that you were saying. So for you to then adopt this attitude where I got where I wanted to go, I no longer have to do the work, it just makes no sense to me. It does, but it doesn't, because I feel like it's very, especially in this situation, it's inhumane. It's inhumane.
You really think people vote because they want them to be served, or because they just make them feel better?
No, you mean why people run?
Yeah, I mean, no, like people vote.
Right.
You just said that people, vote because they want them to serve. But I think that more often than not, people choose, the elected representatives because they make them feel good.
Yeah,
that could be in the terms of, they'll take care of me.
No, I agree.
If you have someone like AOC, like I feel like she's someone who's going to take care of the people that voted for her.
Right.
But at the same time, it could just be like, oh, I just like Ted Cruz more than the other guy. More than Beto or work because Beto's going to take our guns.
I think for me,
it can be as simple as that.
I'm more so thinking about the people who have who see voting as like, I don't have no other option. Because, there are some people who look at voting like, I've been like, this person was here for X amount of time and they did nothing. So this person is saying that they're going to do more than the last person did. And I have no choice but to believe them, because what are my options? So when I say that, I mean those type of situations, like people who really are at a point where it's like, you said that you were going to do this for me, and you said that you were going to make my life better in this way, and you did it. But now this person is promising me that they're going to undo all the things that this last person did. And I believe them because what other choice do I have?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us look at, elections for what they are. I think now we're at a point where we see it for what it is, where it's like, it probably, you promising me all these things, probably not going to give it to me, but I'm going to go ahead and vote for you anyway because I got to vote, or because, I believe in voting.
I mean, yeah. To segue into the next topic, actually, like, this is a great way to start. Like, as Marcus said, do people vote for these people because they have to give them something to believe in, and then to let them feel good? Because I feel like, let's look at Joe Biden and the current place that is administration is in. Like, Joe Biden didn't really run a policy heavy campaign. Like, most of it was, but if you read his plans, like, that did drive people out, and those people that he do hold the favor, none of that is happening. Like, he's like, probably, days today, 22nd, probably, this is probably like his 1 month mark since he became president, and none of his administration incentives, none of the promises, most of the things that he has promised he has walked back on them crazy. You gonna tell the black leaders no police reform, no reform? Like, the fuck is you talking about, bro?
I think in certain situations, it depends on, like, I guess, your mindset about it. Like, I think if you, follow closely with, like, how elections go, or how people, like, are, like, in their term, you start to get a genuine consensus that it's like, you like I said, I think last pod or the pod before, like, a lot of people a lot of people run on certain policies that they know are like peak things for people, like things that people genuinely care about, like healthcare, minimum wage, taxes, that type of stuff, college debt, of like, free education, stuff like that, because that it's going to invoke something in people because it's something that people care about. But then they get into office, and then it's like, okay, well, I have to then concur with other people who may not agree with the things that I'm saying, and that's why I can't get the things done. But on the other hand of that, it could just be like, I said those things because I knew that those were things that people would vote for me for. And now that I'm here, I don't really have to guarantee that I'm going to do these things because you voted for me already. I'm here. And if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you because you can't do anything about it.
I have a question.
I think that's the the double-edged sword when it comes to politics, in the sense that it's like, you have people who really hold value in voting. Like, if my vote matters and change is going to happen. But some, politicians don't see it that way. It's like a popularity contest, or it's like a means to get what I want.
I have a question. Do y'all think the issue is that Republicans are aggressive and Democrats aren't?
Aggressive in what way?
Like, aggressive in pursuing whatever they want. Like, there is no, like, when they passed that tax cut, Mitch McConnell didn't come to the Senate and ask, like, for bipartisan support. Like, he said, this is going to happen, and this is what we're going to do. For Amy Coney Barrett, she did the same thing. When Trump did pass all of his policies, he didn't care. Like, he invited Nancy and Chuck to the White House, and they left angry. He passed the bills that he wanted. He didn't care. Like, it's just like, I promised my people. Mitch McConnell said, I promised my people Supreme Court picks, and that's what I'm going to give them. Yeah, and that's what he did.
There's definitely a ruthlessness to the way that the Republicans govern versus the Democrats, where they, one of the things that I hate hearing, and it's something that goes all the way back to Biden when he was running in 2018, 2019, where he was talking about his ability to work with people on the other side of the aisle. He was like, I've worked with Republicans before. And it's one thing I know on Twitter, everyone who pays attention to politics is like, what the hell are you doing? Get this guy out of here. And then it's something that's, even now we hear Nancy Pelosi talk about, we want a strong Republican Party. We need a strong Republican Party. And it's like, you'll never hear the Republicans say anything like that. Republicans don't give a damn. Democrats are the only ones who are still kind of interested in this, having, two parties that are functioning, but Republicans don't care. And I wish that it's one of the things that I think that if Democrats came with the same kind of mentality, then we would have already had, the stimulus bill or the relief bill, whatever you want to call it, that would have already been done. Yeah, some of the action the action on racial equality, on the Paris Agreement, on Iran, things like that are still kind of out there.
Would have been done.
Would have been
But I
done.
think,
The points, it's like the Marshall Fudge thing, which is something that still kind of grinds my gears because it's like
Me too.
That was a clear issue. Like first of all,
Right.
Tom Vilsack didn't give you anything.
And he already served in that role already.
Already served in that role, pissed a bunch of people off when he was in that role. Didn't give you Iowa, despite some polling saying that Iowa was up in play. He didn't deliver Iowa, whereas James Clyburn delivered you the nomination, and you're not going to reward him by giving him his pick for the agricultural department. So it's like things like that. It's like you could have done that. And I think if he had, again, Chuck Schumer is not Mitch McConnell. I don't know if the operatives on the left are the same as on the right, but I don't think there's that same kind of mentality that would get things done for the left that the right clearly has, and was able to get the tax cut done, at least was able to get a lot of judge and federal appointments done. They didn't kill Obamacare, which was a good thing, but yeah, I do wish that. So it's one thing that I bemoan all the time. We don't operate the way that they do. That hurts us.
I think that's something that we've consistently said, like during this, like every time we have this conversation, or this just topic comes up in general, is that it would be interesting to see if it would be an interesting dynamic to see if Democrats adopted kind of the same tactics and drive that Republicans can. And a part of me is like, are Republicans aggressive, or are Democrats just not aggressive enough?
They're just Republicans are just not afraid, in my opinion.
That's what I like. That's my take on it. Like I
No.
think it's like there's no need to be afraid. There's no need to be afraid because I'm going to get what I want, because it's almost as like I say I want this, I'm gonna get it. And a lot of times we can make excuses for Democrats and say, like they're having to like fight against Republicans, but Republicans have to do the same. Like it's a two-way street. The only difference is Republicans have no consideration for how the Democrats feel. And so I feel like if the Democrats adopted that same attitude, there's no telling what could get accomplished. Like, I think we would definitely get more accomplished than we do now. Mm-hmm. For sure. I can't help but to think, how long ago we would have gotten $2,000 if they were more like Republicans. But I feel
also, though, there was an impeachment. Just want to throw that out there too.
That too.
I think that's those slowed things down. Just to be fair.
Yeah,
really
but I also feel like we have a tendency to kind of like dance around the same things over and over and over and over again, and it's like I don't feel that it's that way. Like I don't feel like it's that way on the other side for Republicans. It's more so like we say this is what we want. And we've come to a genuine consensus that this is what we all want. And so this is what's going to happen.
The way I look at it is, it's kind of weird. So if y'all watch Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
The Avengers was really a good group of people, but Thanos you really got to admire his efficiency and effectiveness in carrying out goals and policies. The Republicans in this space is literally Thanos. Like, they really plan, and I got to give it to Mitch McConnell. It's not like Mitch McConnell was working with a 10-seat majority in the Senate. Like, he had basically the same kind of arrangement. I think 54-46. Like, and he just was more efficient. Like,
well, the thing that kind of gets me about Biden is, I think it's just his attitude and tone about certain topics kind of like gets to me. Like, for example, like we watch like the Joe Biden town hall on CNN.
No, not happening.
Right. Like this lady asks, like, hey, people are really struggling with like student loan debts. We do need that $50,000 relief. What are you going to do about it? Man just said no, straight up.
That's what I know. And this is why I wanted Elizabeth Warren to be president, right?
Right.
Because if Elizabeth Warren is going to tell me no, she's going to sit me down and explain to me,
why.
I might, Elizabeth Warren might say, I can't give you 50,000. Mike can give you 25,000. And here's why, But Joe Biden literally can't explain himself.
I mean, his answer is the same. It's like, I don't think I have the authority. When it's like, there's been multiple people who come out and said, you have the authority.
You have the authority.
His answer on that was so insulting, though. He
said not happening. He said not happening.
No. He said not happening. Then he started rambling about how his grandchildren are in like over $100K in debt but they're okay. It's just like, what?
Like, bro,
How
please
does
shut
that
the
help
fuck
us?
up, bro. Like, that doesn't right
And I
now.
also think it also kind of plays into the idea that, like, I feel like when Joe Biden ran, almost said Joe Biden because it's the
Joe
Twitter
Budden.
jokes.
Joe Budden. Shut up, President Joe Budden, man.
but,
On the Joe Budden podcast.
but when I think also what's interesting about like Biden becoming president is that a lot of people were hopeful that that this was going to happen because he said it was. But I also think on the other end of it, a lot of people just voted for him because they wanted Trump to go. So it wasn't really like necessary for him to follow through. Because the way a lot of people are looking at it is like, yeah, like he kind of falls short on his promises, but at least we don't have Trump. And so I think on the one hand, it's like, yeah, like, we don't have Trump anymore, but I still want you to do the things that you said you were going to do. Like, student loan debt is a lingering thing for a lot of Americans. Healthcare, like the stimulus, like, the stimulus relief, like these are things that people want, like people voted for him for because he said he was going to do them. So for him to kind of like, is this something I'm shocked by? No, but it's still, kind of like, distasteful in the sense that you said you were going to do this thing, and he affirmed. It's not like he said, I'm going to try my best. He promised. Like, he looked people in the eye and said that I will do this.
Right. I actually don't think he did that for the $50,000. He's always, I think he's been consistent about 10 grand. Yeah, I don't know whether he.
No. I wasn't even talking about that. But he did make a promise to get rid of student loan. He promised to do something about student loan debt, whether it be the whole thing or 50 or 10. But he promised at the very least that if you came from a family that made like under, what was it, $150,000 a year?
I think, 125. I have it here, $125,000. Then you wouldn't have to pay to go to a state school. He's also he wants to make a community college free as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's part of his plan.
No. And that's the thing. I don't see any of those because you gotta. So what you gotta what most people don't understand is that Joe Biden technically is a 2-year presidency, because when that midterm comes in like 2 years, if they lose, he's literally on the road campaigning again for president. So he has 2 years to make this work, because the Senate, the House is we probably going to lose. Let's be honest. It's a big chance we're going to lose the House. The
Most
Senate,
presidents lose, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then, so he right now has both chambers that's working for him. The reason, I'm be real with y'all, as an immigrant, the real reason I voted for Joe Biden was because I didn't want to see kids in cages anymore. And the fact that that's still happening, they're opening new facilities, that really hurts. I don't know how y'all feel about that.
Can I say something? I think a lot of, like, one of the biggest things for me is I share the same sentiment as Ryan. Like, you have people who have families who have been ripped apart, for so long, to the point where, like, a lot of them haven't been reunited and probably won't be. And it's deeper than that. But I feel like to critique Joe Biden as the president is not to say, like, a lot of people, when you critique Joe Biden, a lot of people's response is,
you have a Trump?
Well, was Trump better? Oh, you a Trump supporter? But you want Trump back. And it's like, no offense, that shit really infuriates me, because it's like, I feel like that's very ignorant and it's very like uneducated. Extremely. Because it's bigger than Trump, and it's bigger than Biden.
I think
but it's bigger in the sense that you have everyday people who have to deal with shit from people who say that they're going to do something to change and to make America better for everybody, or to give people equal opportunity, or even Joe Biden, who ran, as a kind of like a contrast to Trump. Like, all the things that you had to deal with for the last 4 years, it's going to be better. I'm going to make it better. We're going to be a better country. And it's like, when are we going to be a better country? When are you going to do the things that you promised to do to make this country better, or to make everyone have, an equal start or equal opportunity? And none of those things I have seen. Yeah. And so I don't think it's fair for people's response to be, but Trump. What like Trump ain't like take Trump out of it because he's not the president anymore. But look at it for what it is, and it's like, you know, you look people dead in the eye and ask for their vote because you, in exchange for the things that you say you were going to do. And so now I feel robbed of my vote because you have yet to do anything of the things that I voted for you to do.
Yeah.
Like there's no way we didn't get the stimulus checks already. There's no substantive legislation on that. Bro, you have both houses. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
I had two questions for you guys before. One, did anyone review the immigration bill that he just dropped? I said just dropped, like it's an album.
No, not even.
He just put out the immigration bill. I think yesterday or maybe it was over the weekend. I think he just released it. But I haven't gone over it yet, so I think it is interesting because you guys, I think that was one of the big things that's, you know, certainly moved me. So like, it's one of the negative things about Trump. One of the many things that he does have to fix. And I think so. I thought it was good that he did get a bill, but I'm not sure if he addressed the children in cages.
I think there's a huge issue. There's new. They're gonna build another facility for people, so another set of cages, and that's the thing. When the thing that made me like so upset about all of this is that this should have been one of Joe Biden's platform move, because you and Obama build those cages. Regardless of Trump using those cages, you build them. You built them. Like that's just what it is. Like we have to take responsibility that the cages were built during the Obama and Biden administration. So it would be good enough to see that you guys take the step to tear tear those cages down.
Are completely clueless. A lot of people are completely clueless to the Obama-Biden administration and what they actually have done. I know for a lot of Black people specifically, it was like, oh, Obama was the first Black president. And that's why I voted for him. Cool. But a lot of people also voted for Joe Biden because he was the vice president at one point. And so it's like, if you don't do your research, you wouldn't know that these cages were there before Trump. Like Trump didn't just magically, these cages didn't just magically appear when Trump was president. Like they've been there. And it doesn't matter who the president is, it's wrong. And however you view immigration, they're still people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they're children. Like it's not even, and for me, it's not even about how you feel about immigration, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, which I don't even understand how you could disagree with people. Like it's whatever.
Public mostly supports it. I think about like a 2/3 margin. Like it's pretty big. There's a lot of support in doing the right thing on immigration or the left position on immigration.
That's the thing that kind of like sorry to cut you off. That's the thing that kind of infuriates me a lot about this is that Joe Biden's policies initially are very, very popular. The stimulus package is very, very popular.
And then he's going back on all of them.
Higher minimum wage is very, very popular. And like Ryan was talking earlier, we have both houses. What are we talking about? And like, I don't see any fight or nothing coming out of the White House.
That goes to my point. It's like, did you even want to do it?
Right.
Like, that's the shit that really gets me is that
this shit
you
is
can
so
come up with excuses,
affair, bro.
You can come up with excuses. You could say it's, I tried to do it, but they pushed back on it. But it's like, is that really what's going on? And I don't feel like that is what's going on. I feel
and he can't even. Sorry to cut you off. He can't even use the I'm just 1 month in excuse, because you had all that time to see the fucked up policy that was going on. You said you had all of these policies that already been crafted that you could talk. You was in the Senate for damn near 40 years, more than most people lifetime. What you could have done, you saw Mr. Bipartisanship and Mr. I reach across the aisle. Why don't you talk to your colleagues, your former colleagues, and work something out? Like there's nothing that happened.
To be fair, the Senate is slow as shit. Like the Senate is not the most. It's not
bad.
Something that's going to respond to something like that. Like it's kind of. It was the Senate was designed that way. Like it's supposed to kind of deliberate these things and kind of come up with a thought out, reasonable response to these things, rather than kind of like a rapid response, which happens every now and then when an emergency is declared. But it's for something like this, especially like we're seeing it now with the COVID bill. I think Schumer came out today and said that they should have a bill on Biden's desk by March 14th, which is another 2-3 weeks from now.
Yeah,
something that.
And that's the thing. If this is not a rapid response situation, then what is? Because this today, guess what? 500,000 people died from COVID.
That's the point that's another point I wanted to bring up too. Like I think like Biden, he talked about a few reasons that Biden was elected. One of them was that he's not Trump. Another was that he was part of the Obama administration. But I think another thing was that the COVID response, like 500,000 people are dying, and that's kind of like the chief issue. If you look at what he was running on, it was that Trump fucked up COVID. Yeah. Trump fucked up COVID. I'm coming in to kind of make sure that we have a response. He comes in, he's elected, and rather than working on a transition that makes sense for him, Trump stonewalls him, and then he has to kind of pick up the pieces as soon as he gets into office. And I think that that's kind of, and I guess I'm the guy defending Biden, but I feel like there's a reason that he's not being able to get to these other things because he couldn't really tackle the COVID issue as early as he wanted to, or get briefed on it as much as he wanted to, on taking it up. Because you throw in the insurrection and you throw in the impeachment as well. It's like there are these other things happening, and you have 60, 70, 80-year-old people who are slow as shit at responding to these things. Well, no, we shouldn't have voted for. We gotta stop voting for old people. That's really the issue. But again, I think there's a lot.
Term limits is the issue.
Term limits is a huge issue. Think about asking your grandparents to run the country. It's insane. You wouldn't do that. You could barely ask your
grandparents in my case.
Great grandparents in your case. I mean, it'd be my parents. My parents are in their 60s right now. So yeah, I wouldn't ask them to do a lot. But yeah, we have congressmen kind of running the country that are too old to kind of function and walk and chew gum at the same time.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's if you're looking for a reason, if you're looking for a scapegoat, yeah, Biden could certainly be doing a lot more. But again, he's trying to, in 100 days, he's trying to get out the COVID, make sure that the COVID vaccine is distributed as much as possible. He's trying to kind of undo as much of Trump's like executive orders and certain things that he did in his 4 years, trying to undo as much of that. He also wants to get out of the COVID bill and try to deal with some of the student loan crisis and all these other things. So
I was watching
a lot going on his plate.
I was watching the news and he was touring the Pfizer facility, and then he gave like a briefing after. And I can give him that in the sense that he was 100% accurate when he said that the time to change the trajectory of this virus has passed, which is true. The time to have done something about this virus was a year ago, and he wasn't the president a year ago. So now it's like, I can only focus on this vaccine because that's really the only thing that's going to like get us back to like a sense of normalcy. Like, we can't stop the spread. I mean, we could, but that's not what's going on. We can't slow it down. We could, but that's just not what's going on. So the only thing we can do is push this vaccine. And I feel like a lot of the focus is COVID right now because it's like the thing that kind of like impacts a lot of things. It's like an umbrella type of situation where it's like, if we tackle COVID, other things we can get to. But COVID aside, I just feel like, it's not okay for you to, make promises that really do impact people's lives, like everyday lives, and kind of just shrug it off like, I'm not going to do it.
So remember when I started this segment, it was nobody asked you to run. Right. That's my hit back on the slowness and Joe Biden having a lot on his plate. He knew the task at hand. There was how much people were running for the DNC nomination? At least 12, 13 around there, right? There was 13 other people that was willing to do the job. You said you could do the job better.
Debates, yeah.
You said you could do the job better. You wanted this role. Yeah. COVID was still happening while the DNC was primary, like in the middle of the primary, because Bernie Sanders was there still in the race with him. You wanted this role. Nobody asked you to run for president. We didn't beg you. You asked us to go vote for you.
Yeah, he wanted to be the president.
This is a responsibility that you asked for.
Right.
It's not like I have a job and like, yo, if I don't do my job, like I'm volunteering. No, we didn't ask you.
You applied. You came. You applied
for the position.
So I was wanting to counter on Marcus's point about Biden's COVID response, and I'll say there's one thing. Everything that Marcus said, I do agree with. But Biden's response to getting teachers back into classrooms was very Trumpian. Very Trumpian.
I agree with you there.
You know what I mean? Because like, number one, you're asking teachers. First off, it's like almost the end of February, right? When the school mostly ends, like May, June. Can we like wait until like the fall to like get things like back to normal?
See, for me, it's like I have a few teacher friends, like a few. And a lot of them have expressed to me that, it's a ping pong type of situation.
Right.
Like we'll say like, okay, we'll try the hybrid method.
Right.
Then we'll just try to go back to school. And then a few people get sick. And then it's like, oh, okay, we're going to just go back to virtual because people are getting sick. I feel like in this situation, I feel like teachers are kind of, like they're not considered.
They're not.
And they're not represented. And they're not, it's unfortunate because I think if obviously we want kids to go back to school for many reasons.
Right.
The social aspect, they grasp material better. But it's like, if that's what we want, instead of just trying to force it to happen because we want it to, what are we going to do to make the conditions better to get kids back to school and to get teachers back to work safely? But that's not the case. It's like, oh, well, people are complaining. Parents are complaining because they're having to spend more time with their children. They're having to be more involved in their education. Oh, I'm going back to work. I don't know what I'm going to do about childcare because my kid is usually in school. These are not valid reasons for schools to open back up.
Right. And I agree with everything you say. I'm not saying that, like, I understand that if you're a parent, like, kids, obviously they learn better in this classroom. Yeah. I 100% understand that. But, like, me personally, I do think that the CDC was politicized under Trump, and it does seem like it was a little bit politicized under Biden. You can't say that it's safe to open up schools and everything's back to normal for schools when, like, we have to now double mask when we go to Walmart now. There's more strains of the virus out there that are more contagious. Oh. You know what I mean? And like some states
people ignore the information that they don't want to hear. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm like, realistically speaking, we know this. Like, this is readily available information. But it's like, I'm going to reject this information because it doesn't feed what I want. And what I want is for children to go back to school and for schools to open and for things to just go back to normal. I don't care that it's not safe. I don't care that things have gotten worse and they're getting worse before they can get better. I just want my kids to go back to school. And teachers ultimately have to make the choice about whether they want to have a job or whether they want to live. And I think that is a very disgusting choice that one has to make.
It is disgusting. And I think, like, and I'll just get off this point. The biggest frustration about American politics is that we never touch the deep issues. We only scrape the surface, we'll paint over it, but we actually won't deal with, like, the deep issues. And some of the deep issues that COVID has shown us, especially in the education systems, that not every kid has access to the internet, right? Yeah. Well, what's the game plan to deal with that? Not every kid lived in a good home, and we knew that before COVID. Yep. What was the situation to resolve those issues, right? And then on top of that, schools were overcrowded before COVID. So, like, if you're going to try to force kids back, how are we going to social distance? That doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? You can't say on one end, like, it's safe enough to open up, like, a high school or middle school, whatever. But then, like, the restaurant guy, it's not safe enough for them to do it.
And I'm sorry to say this.
Talking both sides of your mouth here. I feel
like telling people to social distance and wear a mask and practice good hygiene is, like, it's cute, but it's not enough.
But we're telling kids to do that. You know what I mean? That's
but it's like, and that's the worst group to tell to do that because they're the ones that have the hardest time with that. Like, you know, like, first of all, I remember, like, when I was younger, like, when I used to get my school supply list, on the list it would always be like disinfectant wipes, hand sanitizer, like soap for the classroom or whatever, because kids, like, just spread germs around.
Mm-hmm. Like, they cough germ balls. They're all
they cough on each other. They spit on each other. I mean, not spit on each other. They, like, just
all over
the place. Yes, like, they, you know, and it's the joke. People make the joke, like, oh, you know, you send your kids to school with a Superman mask and they come back with this is real. Like, they really do stuff like this because they had, as much as you teach them, like, wash your hands, do this, do that, it goes above their head. Because they're kids. Yeah, so you're expecting kids to be something other than what they are, which are kids. And you think that if you just drill it into them over and over and over and over again, they'll get it. And that's just not how kids work. But again, it feeds the narrative that you want that to be the case because you want what you want when reality, that's not what's going to happen. Like, kids are not going to magically be cleaner and safer and smarter because you want them to be back in school.
Yeah,
I think another layer too, just to wrap this up, is like Biden also wanted to be a very pro-union president. It's one of the things that he did campaign on, not as loudly as the other things, but he's kind of ignoring or making an enemy of the teachers' union
right now
by not standing up and
what's his end goal, man?
Between Biden and I think Fauci too, because Biden also said, I want to listen to the scientists, and I think Fauci coming out and saying, we're not going to prioritize teachers for the shots. I think CDC also going along that way and saying, teachers don't need shots. I think there's been a lot of science saying that that's not necessary, but I think psychologically, I think, and something Carly, I think you did a really good job speaking towards, like, we have to protect them. There has to be protections for the teachers. Right. And I think not having their back in this it's just not a good look.
It sends the message. It sends the message like, you're good enough to educate my child and play a pivotal role in my child's life, but you're not important enough for us to extend the courtesy and make sure that you're safe and you're protected and you're in the best environment so that you can do your job and thus teach our children. And I feel like this is a narrative that has, that's pre-COVID. I feel like teachers are constantly just having to make the choice between their passion for teaching, because a lot of teachers sign up to do this job because they care about the work that they're doing. They care about the impact that they have on these children's lives and their students. They enjoy the work that they do. But why do people in this country have to choose between what they love and am I getting paid enough? Am I safe? Do my employers care about me? Like, am I valued? Am I respected? And that's horrible. Like, I think that's so horrible because it's effed up that they were left out of the first round. Like, because I feel like they deserved it. Yeah, if we want kids to go back to school, if we want education to return to what it was or a sense of normalcy, then teachers should absolutely be vaccinated. And by you saying that, it's kind of like a contradiction to the fact that you want schools to open back up. Because how?
Right.
How?
Right. Then let's open everything else back up then.
I personally think that even though it's 1 month, heads need to be rolled in that Biden administration. You need to hire some new people.
They haven't even hired everybody. They haven't even confirmed everybody.
It's not, because sometimes it's not the secretary and all those political appointees. It's those advisors around. That's the issue. Like, who's telling them these ideas?
That was like the biggest critique of the Biden presidency. It was his advisors next to him. So,
I mean, look at Ron Klain, who's his chief of staff. I think he was brought in to kind of run the COVID response. So, if it's part of the COVID team. Yeah, he's actually he was brought in to run it. So I think he also ran the Ebola response as well. But he's going to be. If you're looking for somebody to point to, I mean, he'd be the first guy in my book.
All right, guys. So I want to bring it over to Keep's Corner. I wanted to get on my crazy take about Kamala Harris, but before I do that, it's a couple of housekeeping items. So the last podcast, I actually tried to back up Joe Manchin, but after doing further research, I want to retract my statements.
All my homies ate Joe Manchin, man.
So here's the reason why. Joe Manchin recently opposed Biden's budget office pick.
Yep.
Nara Sandin, I believe her name is.
Nara Sandin, Twitter bully.
Right. Because of her tweets, even though we had a president that tweeted out a lot of stuff that was mean, a lot more mean than what she said.
And Susan Collins and Joe Manchin voted 52 times with him, 52% of the time with it.
So I was flabbergasted. I saw, I know Marcus said something in our group chat that this Manchin is going to deny her to vote for the stimulus package, and I'm like, why? West Virginia doesn't care.
That's a deal they don't need to make. The strip Yo, somebody need to sit Joe Manchin down. I don't care if we lose. Say, in a year and a half, is either you with us or you against us?
Well, I mean, to be honest, within a year, we're probably going to have a Supreme Court pick. Joe Manchin, if you want to reject that Supreme Court pick, that's your shot. But right now, why are you attacking Biden's nominees? What's up with you, dude?
For Office of Management and Budget,
right?
It's not even
I didn't even know it was appointed. I did not know
that was a political appointment either.
It's an important position, but it's not one that's on anyone's no one's thinking about that. You could have.
You to sabotage it.
Yeah, you could have sabotaged, Attorney General or something more high profile.
Bro, why is this the hill that you have chosen to die on?
Okay, so there's another thing also that I want to retract my statements on. So This is a wild statement I would make. I actually listened to Bernie Sanders, and he was talking about the $15 minimum wage. I was under the impression that the $15 minimum wage is like, as soon as they pass it, $15.
No, it's a gradual thing.
That was not the case.
It's going to take time, yeah.
And it was going to be a gradual increase to 2025. And they were going to provide tax cuts to small businesses so that they can keep up with the increases. Yeah. How is anyone against a 2025 $15 minimum wage?
Because we don't want big government, bro.
Bro, 2025, and you're still getting paid $7.25. That is nuts to me.
Half the country in Joe Manchin is in the pocket of businesses. They don't want to do anything that's going to hurt businesses. They don't want governments interfering with markets. All right.
Ideology alone. I think what's becoming my new motto is that Republicans are evil and Democrats are just straight up enemies of progress.
Bro, at this point, Manchin should just either declare itself
independent or they should just strip him off all committee assignment, because I don't understand what the fuck is going on.
How are you against 2025? Like, what? How are you against that?
People are earning something.
That's what I don't understand. Like I keep trying to wrap my head around the beef with $15, and I really can't come up with a logical reason as to what the issue is. Like it don't make no sense to me. It really doesn't.
$15 passed in like red states. It was like a ballot initiative, I think, in several states, and it passed.
In Florida.
Something that people want, but
people want more money. Like, what are you doing, man?
It's a popular measure anyways. Like, I don't understand like the logic here.
I've tried reading up on Joe Manchin to figure out how he operates. Like, there's like he's not a popular senator. There's only like a few articles about him, but like I have no idea like what
because up until recently he was a backbencher, yeah. And then Westbrook
17.
Yeah. Then people really realized
his profile.
Honestly, I think it came from them's not flipping the red states that they think they could have flipped, and then realizing that Joe Manchin is the only stronghold like in a red state that they have. That's probably what it came from.
But this is the thing. This is the thing they need to do, though, because they got to get rid of filibuster. Because if they don't pass the John Luna's Voting Rights Act, we're going to get flack not only for this election but for elections in the future. Because I believe it's either this year or next year that states can now redistrict congressional districts or whatever, and majority of the states, especially the swing states, are in Republican hands. We already saw in Georgia that they're rolling.
We don't win in local governments, and local governments draw state districts and gerrymanders. So we don't win there. So
exactly, and we already saw that in Georgia. They're like, black people, you voted way too much. We're going to specifically target you about saying the word black. Like, you got to get rid of the filibuster, or else you're not even going to screw your party for 2022 elections. You're going to screw your party way down the road where we're barely trying to win the electoral college for the presidency. They need to pull Joe Manchin to a room and be like, 2022, you're in or you're out. Like, we're not giving you any funding, nothing. Like, you're out the party. Like, you're either in or you're out, but you better like sit down and start voting the way we want to vote.
Can I be real with you? I just feel like Joe Manchin needs his ass beat. But
like, honestly,
we'll send Rand Paul there.
At this point, it's just annoying.
I don't want to advocate for violence, but I feel like some of these guys somebody needs to lay hands on some.
You know what? The great.
I don't advocate for violence.
The great John Lewis said. Great John Lewis said, "Good trouble, man. Good trouble. Good trouble."
We don't advocate for violence.
There's no way your red state governor. There's no way your red state governor is more liberal than you, bro.
He's advocating for the stimulus package.
John Tester in Montana has the same situation, and he's like, no,
John Tester, he's not acting like,
No,
the two Georgia senators that we just elected are in the same scenario.
Very I would say they probably in a worse scenario right now because the way Georgian election laws have been going, like the way they try to like since the last election, like they have tried to get stricter. Like I'm about to, and if they don't pass that John Lewis bill soon, by the time next year they probably pass like voter ID restriction laws, and like the less people vote, the better. So
yeah, they're gonna really crack down on it. All right, so time for my hot take about Vice President Kamala Harris. Here we go. Drum roll. She is bored out of her mind. She has nothing to do.
Maybe they pass some damn legislations.
She can't do that. she went to West Virginia and Joe Manchin yelled at her and we never really saw her again. You know what I mean?
Like what I'm saying is that I feel like if there was passed a legislation and 50-50 split, her job was to go break that vote. But since niggas not really passing nothing, she ain't got shit to do.
She has nothing to do, bro. Like if you look at her IG, she just walks from building to building. I don't know where she's walking to.
Right.
There was one where she was like exercising with the poor Secret Service. They couldn't keep up. They're like, go somewhere. Like she went to LA. She had nothing on her agenda. She just stands behind Joe Biden when Joe Biden just stumbles over and rambles when he talks like a policy
for those 4 hours.
Right. I just feel so bad for her. Like just put her back in the service.
I think it's only 1 month, but so far I don't think she thinks it isn't what the role that she was promised, because she was promised a robust agenda. Like she was supposed to be like the president number 2, and she hasn't, Joe Biden got those centrists surrounding him, and she's not really you look at her policy, she's not really a centrist, so I don't think they're friends.
Dude, she hasn't done it. Dude, she hasn't done anything. I'm just not like this to her. It's just like, all right, let's look at our past VPs, right? Mike Pence. We knew what Mike Pence's role was to be like the shadow president. Yeah. Like if you didn't like Trump, you could like Pence. Like that was
they could give him the security briefings that Trump couldn't get.
Right.
He also brought the evangelicals into the fold. So.
He did. No. Pence actually was like a pretty powerful VP.
He just very really talk about it. Because without Pence, President Trump don't win nothing.
Right. Let's look at Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Joe Biden, we all know his role was to like convince white people to vote for the black guy.
And then convince the Senate to work with a black guy.
But then Joe Biden actually had like legitimate policies though. He ran like the initial stimulus package. He ran the Iraq policy. He had like actual things that he worked on.
She has nothing.
Freaking Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was the president.
They said Dick Cheney was the most powerful vice president, and I really thought with Kamala Harris having that vote in the Senate, I've basically been part of 2 bodies. At that point, I thought she was going to pass it, but I'm very doubtful right now.
We just need to.
If you Google Kamala Harris, you see the most of the stories are about her selling her condo in San Francisco, rather than any policy that she's working on. So. I don't know. Maybe it's a slow month for her. Maybe they're kind of onboarding her.
If this is a slow month,
I'm just saying for her. Like I don't know what else they're gonna do with her. Like, it's kind of like, oh, we're just focusing on COVID, but we'll give you some stuff to do later, Kamala. Like I don't know what they're doing, but
I don't know.
It's just kind of sitting in the meetings and taking notes. Who knows? It's sad, but hopefully it picks up for her.
Oh
soon.
My god! When she first got elected to VP, she has to fire her social media staff. She has to get rid of them because they had her at the VP desk in the White House highlighting shit. She's not even signing it. She's just highlighting stuff. She's not even reading it. And I just feel
she's highlighting it so they're important things that she could come back to at a later date.
You're right. I apologize for
Carly gets it
for a year down the road when she actually gets a policy.
Yeah, like
Kamala Harris.
Them things be long. So she's like, let me get the keynotes. Let me get the important stuff. Let me weed out the miscellaneous words that people just be throwing in. They be thick. So
I feel you. Hey. She's planning ahead.
I will say one thing. We just talked about the teachers. She actually did come out and say teachers should be prioritized for COVID vaccinations. So maybe that's why she's causing this. She's causing some problems in the administration.
Is there a
little? They got to silence a powerful black woman. That's what they're trying to do.
That's why they just sent her back to LA. Like, go cool off, right? Don't be undermining Biden.
You're overstepping. Yeah. Cool off. Humble yourself.
Kamala, the diversity hire from America?
1,000%.
She's absolutely a diversity hire. If you think she was hired for any other reason than her being, she wasn't a senator. But if you think that her being a black woman didn't play a major role in her being the VP, you're foolish. Like Biden knew he needed to pick somebody.
You need to color it up.
Yes.
It was between her, Val Demings, and a few other black women politicians. So
yeah,
like it wasn't enough that I was the first black president's VP. Like I have to up the ante. Like I gotta give y'all something.
I think he said I found the winning formula for y'all.
Honestly,
always keep some color on the ticket.
You know what Biden should do to like save Kamala? He should nominate her to the Supreme Court when a seat opens up.
Because she's a lawyer, mad smart.
Right.
Mad. So take her out of misery.
Seriously, man.
You take a hard working woman and stuck her behind a desk.
Honestly,
nothing to do.
You know, considering the last few confirmations, it might not be a bad idea.
Could do worse.
She could probably be the deciding vote for herself, and that'll be the last thing she does for VP. Yep. You know, but Joe Manchin might shoot it down. But,
Joe Manchin might say no.
Right.
I don't like you.
She's too liberal.
She's too liberal for the court.
She's gonna drive a wedge between the country, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Shout out to Joe Manchin. All right, guys, that's all I have for the Liberalish podcast. Thank you again for listening to us. If you like us, please subscribe to our podcast. Please follow us on YouTube. Please share our podcast with friends. Share us on social media. We are trying to grow. Hit us up. Give us some feedback. We'll respond back. We love interacting with the fans. So that's all I got for today, guys. And we're out.